Time now for our Life and Info segment, where we focus on information that should be useful for your everyday lives. Now, coffee, of course, is one of the most loved drinks anywhere you go in the world. But here in South Korea, demand for it has been soaring. And many people say what gradually started as a habit has become a culture of its very own, a very lucrative business as well. Today, we're going to look at the wide spectrum of the coffee market here in South Korea, particularly in terms of the wide range of prices you can find. I'm very happy to be joined in the studio by Kim Mok-yeon. So, Mok-yeon, let's talk coffee then, shall we?
Yes, good morning, Mark. Before we go to the details, let me ask you a question. Do you like coffee?
Yes, of course, I like coffee. I drink probably around 2 or 3 cups of coffee a day. I've already had 2 this morning.
Oh, okay. That's good.
Yeah.
Well, actually, I also love coffee. And for me, it's more like a routine, just like you said, after getting up from bed or after, having lunch. And like you said, for most Koreans, the love for coffee is amazing. And recent data actually showed that an average person living in Korea drinks more than 500 cups of coffee a year, and that's around 1.5 cup for every day. And demand is continuing to rise too, and the size of the coffee market is still growing at a rapid pace. If we look at the screen here, we can see that the local coffee market was nearly 4 times bigger in the latest data compared to a decade ago. And especially in South Korea, the trend has been even more evident in coffee shops, with annual sales of major franchises sitting in the world's top 3.
Yeah, depending on what time of the day you go, it's almost impossible to find a seat in some of those big franchises here in South Korea, especially the comfortable ones that are the premium ones in the window or whatever. But gone really are the days when Koreans used to just drink the instant mix coffee that you pour into
Yes.
the paper cup and whatnot. But now you can get coffee in all different types from anywhere in the world, hot and cold. The varieties are endless.
So it seems like you really kind of love coffee.
Yeah.
How much do you usually spend when you go to a coffee shop?
Well, I generally make my own coffee, but when I go to the coffee shop, I will spend roughly around $3 to $4 because I tend to only drink hot Americano, hot black coffee.
Okay, it seems like you're not too fancy when
No.
it comes to coffee. So did you know that actually coffee prices in shops could range from 70 cents to up to $9 and perhaps even more?
Yeah, I did know that, yeah. Well, I refuse to pay anything more than $5. I have been in coffee shops where they charge in excess of $10 a cup, and I pretty much do a U-turn and walk out the door because I refuse to pay that much. But what you're saying then, we're seeing this huge range of prices, below $1 at one end and over $10 sometimes in another end. So that's a tenfold difference for what some people would argue is essentially pretty similar coffee.
Yes, like what you said, the coffee market is actually booming in Korea, and the demand for coffees that are expensive and affordable are both increasing rapidly. As the market size expands, I think it's because the people's tastes also kind of mature.
Yeah.
In recent years, specialty coffee brands have been booming in Korea, and public demand for such premium coffee has been spiking. Last year, premium coffee market size reached some $865 million, taking up to 20% of the total market share. Specialty coffees are premium coffees, which score 80 or more out of 100 from the Specialty Coffee Association of America. And due to the intense demand, one popular specialty coffee brand has decided to launch its first store in South Korea. And I popped along and I had the chance to meet the CEO.
But mainly deeply honored by the fact that so many people would come out and visit us on our first day. We have guests, for Koreans have been visiting Blue Bottle in America and Japan for years. So I know Blue Bottle is special in Korea. And that's why we're here. We feel a responsibility to be in Seoul.
Yes, so as you can see, tons of people have been waiting in line, and some of them even for like 4 hours to just get the taste of the special coffee. And the price tag was a little bit higher than the average, but most of the people I talked to, they said it was worth the wait. Let's take a listen.
I've heard a lot of effort goes into making specialty drinks, such as only selling coffee that is 48 hours out of the roster. I think it's worth the wait.
I've always loved visiting specialty coffee brands all over the world. While it's a bit expensive, it's worth the cost because of the unique taste and the experience of being able to watch the brewing process.
Well, it's great to see people enjoying their coffee. I don't know about you, Mok-yeon, but I'd never stand in line for 4 hours just for a cup of coffee. It must be a fantastic... I hope that CEO brought you out a cup for free, but let's not get into that right now.
Yes.
We can talk about that after the news. But now we are seeing more of these big franchises as well, moving in to this premium specialty coffee market. Even Starbucks, I believe, has this new sub-brand. It's called Starbucks Reserve. And I've definitely been seeing more and more of these pop up on the streets of Seoul. So this really is a big emerging market within the already massive coffee market here in South Korea.
Yes, actually, Starbucks Korea expanded its already heavy presence in the country through its upscale Starbucks Reserve store that serves specialty coffee made by skilled baristas. The brand has been opening Reserve stores in South Korea around 3 years ago, and it first started with 5 stores nationwide in 2016. But as of March this year, the number had multiplied to 47, and the company plans to open more even in the future.
Yeah, I'm sure they do, because they are full most days. But it is an extra choice for those who perhaps have a little bit of extra money in their pockets, those who have become accustomed to exotic coffees from around the world, or perhaps just a guy or a girl who wants to go on a nice date with their new partner. Let's turn our attention, though, because it isn't all about highbrow coffee, is it? There are lots of cheap, affordable, but also relatively nice tasting coffee options out there as well.
Yes, Mark. While some people actually, like you said, look for distinct coffees with unique characteristics, others tend to look for more cost-effective and accessible coffees. And since 2015, Korea's 3 major convenience stores actually started opening their own branded coffees for takeout. They've seen their sales surge since they were first introduced, with figures doubling due to their reasonable price between 80 cents to $2.
Yeah, I've seen them around. You can't miss them if you go into any convenience store here in Korea. And I believe they are very popular with office workers during the lunch hour.
Definitely.
Because they don't have to spend too much money, and they can just take it out with them after they've had their lunch. I've yet to try it. Have you? Does it taste similar to what you might find in the coffee shop?
Well, in fact, I did quite a lot of times, and it was really good. People might think that the quality and taste of the coffee could be, linked to the price, but actually, these convenience stores are providing coffee beans from countries that are really famous for coffee, such as Costa Rica, Colombia, and even Brazil.
Okay, so that's good. So you can buy decent quality coffee for a reasonable price pretty much everywhere you go in Korea. But with demand for coffee growing in convenience stores and premium brands as well, where do we see this trend eventually going? Because it doesn't seem like it's stopping anytime soon.
Well, actually, for this opinion, I kind of talked to a professor studying consumers' trend, and she said that this trend was kind of easy to spot. Let's take a listen.
It's natural for consumer demands to be segmented when a market expands. It's really a matter of how much value people give to coffee. Now that drinking coffee is the norm, consumers who consider it as a daily routine tend to look for the best price. But with the so-called personal taste trend spreading among young people, others seek out something unique and are willing to pay more for it.
She also said that the polarized trend would likely continue for the next few years because coffee for South Koreans is also a medium of conversation and also a means of building relationships with people.
Yes, well, I'm sure you'll give me one of those $10 cups of coffee after the news.
Yes.
You seem not to have any on the desk for me now, but it's a pleasure, as always, Mok-yeon, and we'd like to see you again in the studio before too long, and thanks for your report.
Thank you for having me.